What most people don't know about fearful avoidance is that they are very sensitive. They present as hyper-independent, high-functioning, perfectionistic. They don't want you to see how sensitive they are. They have deep core wounds of feeling unsafe, like it's really hard to trust, and that they are unworthy, and many more. They've been through a chaotic past which left them feeling ashamed, and they often want to compensate for that in their life by showing up as perfect and as very giving and loving and charismatic, and like nothing can affect them. But let me assure you, a lot of things does affect them, and they have relationship expectations, and they often feel unmet because they are so busy overcompensating and giving and looking after everybody else that they don't speak up for themselves. They don't let their partners know what they expect in relationships. And sometimes these relationship expectations are subconscious. I know I had these subconscious relationship expectations, or many of them at least, and only when I brought them to the conscious mind, I realized how they were ruining my relationships. And I see the exact same thing happening with my clients. So in this video, I am going to go over the top 9 unrealistic relationship expectations of fearful avoidance that sabotages their relationships and brings them pain. Because when these relationship expectations are not met, the fearful avoidant often will believe that they are unlovable, that they will never be met in a relationship, that everybody is out there just to use them. And because of all of these negative beliefs and core wounds that are being stimulated in them, they don't behave in relation like a healthy partner in a relationship. So they will criticize or become spiteful when triggered, or they will lash out in anger, often because they suppress a lot of their emotions and try to just be a cool, understanding partner that doesn't rock the boat. And then they will lash out, feel even more ashamed of that, or they completely shut down and withdraw. Now, to prevent that, I have created these series of videos about how to stop sabotaging your relationships, and also these subconscious relationship expectations, so that we can bring the subconscious to the conscious mind so that you can have a life of love, safety, and freedom. Welcome back to this channel. My name is Patrycja Mahocka. I'm the owner of the Love and Thrive School. I'm a relationship coach, and I help people to shift from surviving to thriving. The number 1 relationship expectation, and this is not in any order of importance, but number 1 is my partner should be as considerate of my needs and give me as much as I am giving. And this is coming from 2 things. The one thing is their past, where they have become extremely hypervigilant. They have come from chaotic family situations or backgrounds where they had to be hypervigilant and attuned to everybody else's micro-expressions, emotions, and energies and needs, and they had to often be the parent and provide for everybody else in order to keep themselves safe. So they have taken this trait, and often they feel like this is a very honorable trait, that they can spot everybody else's needs and they can provide for everybody else's needs, often before their partner even asks them to do that. So on the one hand, this is really great, and it is a superpower of the fearful avoidant. And on the other hand, it is also something that brings them a lot of pain, because they think that everybody is exactly the same. They don't realize that this hypervigilant and over-consideration and self-sacrificing is leading them to then become feeling used, feeling abused in the relationship, feeling spiteful, and then eventually this creates resentment, fights, And sometimes they withdraw, shut down, or even ghost the relationship. And their partner often doesn't know what just happened. Why were we going along and everything was smooth? My partner was not telling me about anything that was wrong with them, that their needs were not being met. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, the fearful avoidant has this big reaction. Okay. So that is the hypervigilant part, where they believe that everybody else should be as hypervigilant as them. They should consider their needs, just like the fearful avoidant considers everybody else's needs and gives. Okay, the overgiving comes from those wounds of, I have to compensate for feeling like a bad person or for having all of these flaws. You know, they are perfectionistic, so they see flaws within themselves. They're very harsh and critical on themselves. So they feel like for somebody to love me, I need to really be perfect and show up for everybody else. And that again leads to the same thing: feeling used, feeling resentful, being spiteful or critical, or creating conflict in the relationship. Number 2, there is this belief that fearful avoidants have that says, my partner should never lie to me. And this comes from them being betrayed in their past and a deep, deep fear of being unsafe in a relationship, a deep fear of being humiliated or being seen as stupid, and feeling that they cannot trust anybody. And this is very sad. And, you know, I went through this journey in my own life and relationships as a fearful avoidant who has now shifted to a secure attachment. I can really feel this for my fearful avoidant friends out there. I was terrified of anybody lying to me because I was betrayed so many times and I was gaslit so many times, and I really struggled with my mental health because of that. A lot of fearful avoidants have narcissistic abuse in their past as well, which lies and gaslighting is a part of and is very damaging. So this expectation that nobody must ever lie, and just listen to this, this is very important, because we need to understand that lies are a natural defense mechanism of most people. Even fearful avoidants, if they're really, really honest with themselves, if they look back at their past, there are places or situations where they could have said little tiny fibs here and there, okay? They often want to be truthful and hold themselves to that for the most part. But most of us at some point will tell a little white lie here and there. So it's not really realistic to expect other people to be 100% truthful, then feel extremely hurt. So this is, I need to make a completely different video about trust and fearful avoidance. So I'm not going to explain the whole degree of this in this video. However, know that yes, if it comes to serious things like fidelity, money, anything that is extremely important to you, you need to have a conversation with your partner, like we all do. All attachment styles need to discuss this. The problem is not with having expectations. The problem a lot of the time is that we do not discuss this with our partner. We do not say like, hey, you know what? I really do not like lies, because what it does to me, it takes me back to my past. It really ruins my mental health, and I cannot be my best self in a relationship where there is lying. How do you feel about it? Do you feel like you can meet that expectation? And if they cannot, or if they say yes and they prove to you time after time that they cannot, then you need to see, is this relationship compatible or not? Okay, so this is how we can discuss relationship expectations. This is what I expect. This is why I expect it. This is what it does inside of me. What do you say? Where are you in all of this? Okay, and then see through their actions, are their words and their actions meeting? Are they congruent? And then you need to see that their actions and their words can meet. Otherwise, there is incongruency and maybe incompatibility. Number 3, my fearful avoidant friends out there, You have a tremendous affinity for growth, especially personal development. So you just want to dig into yourself, dig into your past, look at your trauma, sit in your shadow. You don't mind going into those depths. Not everybody is the same. And fearful avoidants have this expectation that my partner should want to grow as much as I do in the same way that I want to. Okay, so some partners might want to grow in a different way. They might want to develop their intellectual knowledge of history or of English or of geography, and not necessarily go deep inside of themselves, as deep as fearful avoidance, right? So I used to also drag Matt through all of these processes that I was on this journey of like digging deep into myself, and I love it. This is my work. They always say you have to look at what would you do if nobody pays you to do it. This is what I do. I do personal development. When I'm on the beach, when nobody's paying me to do this, I am doing work on myself. I'm doing forgiveness work. I'm doing shadow work. I'm doing all this, and I love it. But I also understand that Matt loves doing this work, but also he just needs to chill. I appreciate that. I have grown to appreciate the lightness and sometimes not having to dig deep, and just living a little bit more superficially. And it's so much more fun. Now that I'm more securely attached, it is so much more fun to sometimes stay on the surface level. But when I was deep in my fearful avoidant patterning, I wouldn't want to be interested in, I wouldn't want to talk to people about the weather. I was just like, oh my God, these people are so superficial. And I used to have all of this judgment. But now I just find it so refreshing of just being able to connect on like this chilled level. Okay, so just examine this. Maybe your partner is great and they want to work with you, but maybe they also can bring you a little bit of lightness or perhaps a different type of interest, and they're growing in a different way. So honor that as well. Number 4, fearful avoidants, as I mentioned, are hypervigilant. They often know what you're feeling before you are aware of the feeling, especially if they are with dismissive avoidance. Dismissive avoidance will have a really hard time with fearful avoidance from this perspective, because fearful avoidance will poke and prod, because fearful avoidants have this hypervigilance that they can sense this very, very subtle shift in energy, and they will poke at the dismissive avoidant, and the dismissive avoidant will clam up even more because they're like, oh, somebody's seeing into me. I don't even do that. This is very uncomfortable. And then the fearful avoidant, often this triggers suspicion in them, and they will think like, what is this person up to? Why are they so ashamed? And it's because often, yes, of course, in any relationship, there might be betrayal, infidelity. I'm not saying it's not like that. But often, if you know that your partner is mostly trustworthy in your heart, but they act like this, especially if they are dismissive avoidant, it might mean that they are triggered into their shame wound. They might believe that there is something wrong with them, because they don't really know what's going on inside of them. They don't want to look inside there, so it makes them feel uncomfortable. Okay, so just because the fearful avoidant gets suspicious, it doesn't always mean that their partner is cheating on them or is about to leave them or something horrible. Okay. Number 5, they believe that their partner must want them all the time, and that their partner must make them feel wanted. And this comes from a core wound of feeling rejected and disliked. So can you see that a lot of these relationship expectations are there as a way to protect ourselves from feeling some uncomfortable emotions? And this is why we have these expectations, which are often unspoken. We project that onto our partner so that we don't have to feel pain. And that's when you know these relationship expectations are unrealistic, because they're coming from a place of pain and not from a place of creation. Do you want your partner to make you feel wanted? Yeah, 100%. And you can discuss that and create that in your relationship. But your partner might not always be available to want you because of various things. And wanted is not only in the bedroom. Fearful avoidants feel wanted when their partner invites them to dinner or wants to spend time with them. Quality time is very, very big for fearful avoidants. And especially if somebody has a rejection wound like fearful avoidants do, they want to know that their partner is thinking about them, wants to spend time with them, doing something amazing, usually growing together, learning something new, not necessarily like book knowledge, but maybe, going to like an arts and crafts thing, or maybe learning through doing a new yoga pose or whatever it is, doing acro yoga. I'm a yoga teacher, so I have all of these yoga references in my mind, but just fill in the blank, right? So quality time, learning a new skill, sharing and getting to know each other more. This is what makes fearful avoidants feel wanted. And if you're a fearful avoidant and you're like, oh my God, that's exactly it. I have been struggling to tell my partner that, or trying to figure out why I feel unwanted, put it down in the comments. I really want to know your experiences. Number 6. Deep, intimate conversations. So fearful avoidants love DMCs, deep, meaningful conversations or intimate conversations. And they expect their partner to want that as well. Like I said, not everybody always wants to be at that depth of connecting. Sometimes people want to be more on the shallow end. And the more we heal, the more it's easier to do both. We can connect on this very surface level and then on the depth level as well. And sometimes we need to see what is rejuvenating to which individual. They often want to know your depth because they have fear inside of them. Unfortunately, fearful avoidants, I know you like the hard truth, so I'm giving you the hard truth of what's really going on. Notice that inside of you. If you are trying to pacify your fears and your anxieties by really knowing somebody extremely deeply, knowing how they think, questioning them about their childhood. Yes, a part of that is like you're really, really curious. You want to know and see the person. And a part of that is like it's pacifying some kind of anxiety. And you're trying to predict how they will react in certain situations to you by understanding what they did in their past. Am I right or am I right? Put it down in the comments if you agree or disagree. Remember, not all of this will apply to every single person. Number 7, they hear everybody. Okay, so fearful avoidant tend to do a lot of work on themselves. Maybe they go to therapy and they hear everybody super intently and they want to make everybody feel seen and heard. And when people don't do the same, because a lot of people don't have those skills, they're not as interested in personal development as fearful avoidants, because a lot of people don't have to. If we didn't have all this trauma in our past, why would we be so interested in personal development? If I didn't have all this trauma in the past, I would most probably be like, I don't know, in fashion or something, something a little bit more superficial. And a lot of people don't have that type of trauma, and it is a gift, and at the same time, it can be something that creates pain for us, where we constantly are seeking the meat of everything. So yeah, fearful avoidants tend to hear everybody, see everybody. If it doesn't come back to them the same, they believe that people are not interested in them, people don't love them, and that causes pain. So you can let go of these expectations. And of course, you can communicate with your partner. It's like, this is how I would like to be heard. And I will make a separate video for this as well, of how you can have these conversations and how you can get your needs met. And I'm not saying all of these are wrong, but the way we go about them is that we often don't verbalize them, and we don't know how to guide our partner to give us what it is that we need and desire. That is the main point here. All right, number 8. When there is conflict, They expect their partner to just know how to soothe them, or to withstand the storm, or to fight for the relationship just as much as they are fighting for the relationship. Meanwhile, most people want peace. Okay, anxious, preoccupied individuals might also not be so put off through volatility or criticism or passionate fights. However, dismissive avoidants and secure people will not like it. They will want to have peace in a relationship. So it's unrealistic of us to expect somebody to weather all of our storms. We need to be able to regulate our emotions and communicate through conflict. Okay, the reason why most fearful avoidants, this is like a bonus here, the reason why most fearful avoidants lash out is that because they keep it in too long, they try to be the cool partner, and then they burst out in anger. So that's the swing that I talk about in most of my videos. So notice, if you are the fearful avoidant, catch it when you have minor irritations and learn how to work through those instead of letting everything pile up and you feel so overwhelmed and in hurt and in pain, and then you lash out and then you look like the bad person in the relationship. Number 9, and this is the last one. Boundaries, my friends. My favorite thing for fearful avoidance for most of us is understanding boundaries. Boundaries. Fearful avoidants believe that their partner should just naturally know their boundaries, just like the fearful avoidant tries to suss out, where are my partner's boundaries, where are my boss's boundaries, how's the environment, how's everybody feeling. Okay, so fearful avoidants often live their life from the outside in. So they walk around like a dry sponge and they absorb information, they process that information, they feel a lot, and then they try to figure out how to act and adapt. Okay, so they are extremely adaptable, which is a phenomenal characteristic. But at the same time, just understand that most fearful avoidants don't really know who they are because they don't really have strong boundaries. Because when they were growing up, they had to do this. They had to live from the outside in instead of from the inside out, like securely attached people do. What I mean by that is securely attached individuals will connect to themselves first and see, how do I feel in this environment? What are the boundaries that I have to set? How can I consider everybody else? So they can have these two polarities of like me and you. Meanwhile, fearful avoidants are mostly about the you. You. What are you doing, right? Because when our brain is in survival, it always has to figure out, what is my threat doing? What is the stressor doing? What is this tiger in my environment doing? And predict their moves so that I can keep myself safe. This is happening subconsciously without conscious awareness, but once the fearful avoidant learns about this, so if you have a fearful avoidant in your life, if you're not the fearful avoidant, then just send them this because they will most probably really appreciate it. Once they understand this, they're like, wow, I can see how much stress my body is under most of the time. This makes sense why for most fearful avoidants, their gut health is out, they have tension in their body or aches and pains in their body or headaches, or they just feel exhausted most of the time, is because they're constantly just, scanning the environment. Their nervous system is just constantly scanning their environment, trying to keep themselves safe. So this is what I'm talking about. We're living in the survival mechanism from childhood. We are just surviving because those are the strategies that we have learned through childhood. So now, my friends, I hope you understand how to shift out of that surviving. Take this information so it can help you to thrive. Bring the subconscious into the conscious. Maybe journal about some of this if you are the fearful avoidant. If you have dated a fearful avoidant and now all of a sudden you understand a lot of this, look, I also understand it can be a very harsh reality dating fearful avoidance. I wouldn't want to have dated me when I was still going through my stuff before I did this work. And, I'm living constantly in a space of growing and developing and amending as much as I can through my work and helping others. So I understand it can be a very harsh experience to date fearful avoidants who are not doing the work yet, or at least at this level, who don't have this awareness. So I'm not saying any of this is right, but we just need to understand what is happening. And I hope that if you are the partner or a family member or somebody who has a fearful avoidant who you want to find out more, I hope this gave you a little bit of insight and closure to what you are looking for. And just the last note, everybody, these videos that you're watching, especially if you're the fearful avoidant, or if you're watching about your own attachment style, just understand that it can bring up a lot of stuff. So if you can go outside or do something nice, have a nice cup of tea, phone a friend, and just get off social media for a little bit to allow this to pass through you and process, that is going to also help you to grow, instead of just maybe going and watching another video and another video and another video, which can just make you feel a little bit more anxious in your body later on. All right, so this is just a quick tip. Of course, you are in charge of yourself, so do what feels good, and I will see you in the next one. Big love.